It's been a while since I uploaded a video. We moved across the country, but more importantly, I got one of these Arctic Air portable coolers. It has 2 times the cooling power, compared to what, I don't know, but that may not matter because it's been on TV. So let's tear it down and find out if this thing really works. Let's go. When I purchased this portable cooler, I wondered if it was safe to use in a house. However, that question was answered as the box clearly shows people using it throughout their homes. In fact, this lady loves it so much, she doesn't even care that her pan is bursting into flames because she has an Arctic Air Ultra to keep her cool. Looking more closely at the box, we can see a little bit of how this thing works. It looks like we'll need to fill it with water, and it will use some sort of filter to cool the air. Here we can see that it operates like a swamp cooler, where a fan pulls in the hot air and pushes it through a wet filter to cool it down. But we'll have a better idea when we open it up. First thing inside is a card that says "Do not return to store." Apparently there's trouble afoot at your local Walmart, so don't go back there. The next thing are some instructions, followed by the charger. This small charger has a 5-volt output or 1.5 amps. And finally, the last thing inside is the portable cooler. Taking it out of the box, I could feel that it was very lightweight. It's very light because it seems to be made entirely of plastic. I'll find out for sure later what it's made of when I tear it down. On the front are adjustable vents as well as some sort of lid. The right side has this big blue sticker that shows you can actually freeze the filter, which would presumably make it much cooler. There was nothing special on the bottom piece except for these 4 rubber stands. On the back is a large plastic fan and a protective cover. You can see by the curvature of the fan blades that it will suck the air inwards. And this hole on the top is for the charger. Nothing on the right side, so let's check out the top. There's a few power buttons, as well as a lid which I'm guessing you pour the water into. I was thinking the whole thing would fill with water, but it looks like it's only the small chamber on the top. Now that we've taken a good look at the outside, let's open it up and see how it works. The outside seems fairly brittle, so I want to make sure I remove all the tape and plastic, so when I take it apart it doesn't catch on the plastic wrap and break or crack the outside shell. I looked around the outside for any screws to open it up, but didn't find any. However, when looking at the vents, I found that the front plate could be removed by pulling on the bottom tab. And directly behind the front plate is a filter. On the top are instructions which are the same as before, suggesting that you completely soak the filter or place it in a freezer to make it cooler. Looking more closely at the actual filter material, it looks very similar to a car filter. There is a very slight smell coming from it, and it feels like there's a coating around the filter fabric. The coating texture and smell are very faint and not bothersome at all. The filter material is held together by these plastic braces, and it seems fairly durable. With the filter removed, let's now tear down the rest of the cooler. There's nothing too special with the front plate. It does have small grooves on the side to help hold the filter in place. Earlier we found no screws on the outside, so I'll need to cut this sticker. There's nothing else on the bottom plate, so let's take a look at the fan. The fan and motor are held on by some screws. To get closer, I'll need to take off the sides. On the back of the side plates, there's a bunch of holes for the screws to go in, which will prevent the fan from rattling when it's turned on. After I removed all the screws from the fan, I found that there was some sort of sensor or light underneath the water container. When removed, it exposes a hole, so I'll need to put it back correctly. I originally thought the sensor was connected to the fan, but when I removed the back panel, I could see that it was actually connected to the silicon board. I then got a good look at the water container and saw that there was some sort of plug on the back, but otherwise it was a very simple container with a lid on the front. I then got a closer look at the silicon control panel and found that there were 2 wired ports, one for the fan and one for the sensor. However, it seems that this isn't a sensor at all, but is actually just a light with a seal around it to stop the water from leaking. Now that we tore it down, let's put it back together and test if it really cools things off. With it put back together, let's plug it in and see if it works. It's nice they included slots for the power cord so it doesn't stick out. Plugging it in, the fan immediately turned on. I found that the 3 lines on the left indicate the strength of the fan, and pushing the button turns it up or down. It was a little noisy, but the 3rd setting actually blew out a lot of air. The other button activates a soft light, which seems intended to be used as a night light. However, it's probably too noisy to be used by a bedside. Let's now test if the cooling system works. As mentioned, when turned up all the way, the fan is very strong. If you turned it up and set it on a desk, it would definitely blow papers away. To test the fan strength, I set it to the 1st setting, then placed an empty water bottle in front of it to see if it would move. But nothing happened. I then turned the fan up to the 2nd level, and you can see that it was able to move the water bottle, but just barely. There was a big contrast when I set it to the 3rd setting, as the fan was much louder, but also nearly blew the water bottle off the table. Now I know that the fan works just fine, so I next wanted to test if the Arctic air actually cools the temperature in the room. So with a $5 million research grant, I came up with the experiment of placing a box 10 inches away, then got a before and after measurement of the temperature. With the fan off, the box surface temperature came in at 78.8 degrees. I then set a timer for 5 minutes and let the fan run. After the 5 minutes, the alarm went off, and I got a temperature read of 77.7 degrees. It only dropped 1 degree because the Arctic air filter is dry. Just like a swamp cooler, for the Arctic air filter to work correctly, it needs to be soaked in water. I took the filter to this newly installed sink, then let the water run until it was cool, and submerged the filter, making sure to get all of it wet. The filter became a lot heavier as it soaked up all the water. I then filled up the top container. With the filter wet and the container full, I was ready to go try it again. Before starting, I double checked that the water didn't leak through the light. Everything looked good, so I placed the box at the same 10-inch distance. I got another surface temperature read, and it came in at the same 78.8 degrees. I then turned the fan on high to the 3rd setting, and set another timer for 5 minutes. When the 5 minutes was up, I took the final temperature read. When I took the temperature, it came in at 71.4 degrees. I was actually surprised the temperature dropped almost 8 degrees, and on another reading, it came in the same. A few things to note, the box was only 10 inches away, so don't expect it to cool the whole room 8 degrees. Also note that it seemed to cause the room to be a lot more humid as it pulled in air through the back into the wet filter and pushed it out the front. I've seen these things advertised online and throughout stores, so it was fun to test it out. The build quality feels cheap, but surprisingly it cooled things off. It might make a fun gift, but don't expect it to replace your AC unit. And that's it. Thanks for watching and have a great day.